What is up, people? Welcome back to another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Podcast with your host and professional sports bettor, James Blissett. I've been betting on MMA for a very long time. Been betting on sports for even longer. And we're going to break down another MMA event. You know, these happen almost every week. And I can't wait for this one, just like I can't wait for most of the events, man. Rafael dos Anjos versus Rafael Fiziev. It's the event or the main event to determine who is the most badass Rafael in the UFC. I think it's definitely Rafael dos Anjos. I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm not saying I'm predicting he's going to win. You will hear my thoughts on that specific matchup soon, probably in about half an hour, because I will be breaking down the main event. But in terms of who's the baddest dude in the UFC named Rafael, you got to go with dos Anjos, man. The guy is an absolute legend. He's fought the who's who. I mean, I was looking at his record the other day. You know, I wasn't even looking at his record. I was just thinking about his record the other day. I'll have a look and I'll tell you right now, like, exactly who he's fought. The guy has fought the who's who of the lightweight and the welterweight divisions. I mean, the guy's fought. I'm just going to list off who he's fought right now. Leon Edwards, Kevin Lee, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, Michael Chiesa, Robbie Lawler, Neil Magny, Tony Ferguson, Eddie Alvarez, Donald Cerrone, Anthony Pettis, Nate Diaz, Benson Henderson, Khabib Nurmagomedov. I mean, god damn. This guy has fought the who's who. He's an absolute beast. Wow. Shout out to Rafael dos Anjos, man. I can't wait to watch that guy perform. I can never wait to watch that guy perform. But he's in for a tough fight, man. And I won't go too much into that fight right now. I won't go into that fight at all. But I just wanted to give Rafael dos Anjos his just due. I wanted to give him a little shout out before I go into my podcast because he's an absolute badass, man. So shout out to him. Now, the podcast is going to break down, as I usually do, the last two podcasts, because I've been away from the content game. I gave you guys a full card breakdowns. And if you listen to the last podcast, you're probably quite a few units richer. I took home 7 units on the last event, which was the last event I did a podcast for. But I also gave out lots of solid bets on the podcast. So, you know, hopefully you cash with me. If not, whatever. Hopefully we can cash again this week. I'm not going to be doing a full card breakdown this week. I just wanted to get the podcast out. You know, it's coming out a lot later than usual this week on fight day. I never usually do that, but I'm just getting the content out, you know, which is the most important thing. I'm not going to be doing a full card breakdown, as I just said, but I will be going back to the usual format, which is where I talk about the most exciting fight on the card, or what I perceive to be the most exciting fight on the card. Then I'll talk about the most inaccurate betting line on the card. And then I'll talk about the main event, all from a betting perspective. You know, I'm a professional gambler, so anytime I'm speaking about these fights, I'm speaking about them from a betting perspective. I love watching MMA, but something I love doing more than just watching MMA is making money while I'm watching MMA. So that's what we aim to do every single week. And so anytime I'm breaking down a fight, I'm not necessarily picking or talking about who I think is going to plain old win, but I'm going to be speaking about it from a betting angle, through a betting lens, which means I'm going to be taking the odds into account, right? Because at the end of the day, the only way you can win from sports betting is if you get value consistently from your bets. The only way you can get value from your bets is if you have an edge on a bookmaker. And how you have an edge is by perceiving lines more correctly than the bookmaker sets them. So if a bookmaker sets a line to be plus 200, but you think the line should be plus 100, then you should be betting that line. That means if you're correct, you have an edge there, you will win long term. So without further ado, we'll get straight into the podcast and we'll start with the most exciting fight on the card. Just want to say shout out to everybody in here. We have 50 live viewers, and that's pretty decent considering that I gave 10 minutes warning for this podcast. So if you don't mind right now, I want to get loads of people in here, right? This is like a fight day chat, which I never really do. So if you don't mind, if you do follow me on Twitter or Instagram, if you can retweet my post, invite people to join in. Let's try and get 100 motherfuckers in this bitch, and let's have some fun. Let's try and make some money. And if we do get 100 people in here, if we do get likes, please hit the like button right now. If we do get lots of likes, I will stay at the end of the podcast and answer your questions about any bets you might have or anything you want to ask me. I'll help with that. It is 11:13 p.m. where I am right now in Indonesia. So I don't want to stay up too late, but if we can get them likes, if we can get them retweets, I will stay a little bit later and we can, have a little chit chat like we usually do, whether it's late or not. So we are getting into the podcast right now. The most exciting fight on the card. Honestly, this is like I'm not really excited about this card, honestly, but there are a few fights I'm excited about, like every single card. But in terms of the most exciting fight on the card, there was a couple of what should I say? There was a couple of potential prospects, and I'll just go through them now, as I always do, right? Ronnie Lawrence versus Kakramanov, right? That's a great fight. Honestly, I'm so excited for that fight. I know a lot of people on the Ronnie Lawrence side. I'll speak about that fight if you want. If we get loads of likes and if we get loads of people in here, lots of retweets, I will speak about that at the end because I know a lot of people probably want to know my opinion on that fight. But that was definitely a potential of most exciting fight on the card. David Onama is always going to be in there when you talk about the most exciting fight, but I didn't go for his fight today. It's a rematch from the amateur days against Garrett Armfield. Ayman Zahabi versus Ricky Tercios. Again, like Onama, anytime Tercios fights, he's going to be in that bracket of most exciting fight, although his opponent, in my opinion, is not really going to be there for a most exciting fight. So he doesn't get the cake. Michael Johnson versus Jamie Malarkey. Now, that was heavily touted, in my mind, as the most exciting fight on the card. I didn't go with it, though. We also have Said Nurmagomedov. So these are all like honorable mentions here. Said Nurmagomedov versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. I mean, anytime de Andrade fights, that's potential to be fight of the night. And Nurmagomedov is a great fighter, so you always want to watch him perform. He's 15-2. He's on a great streak at the moment. Did lose that tight, close fight to Raoni Barcelos. Could be on like a 10-fight win streak or something. He's a very exciting prospect, no matter whether sometimes his fights are not super exciting. He is a first-round finishing artist, or he goes to decision. So he's an exciting guy to watch. And then, obviously, the only fight we really have left that's going to be really exciting, in my opinion, is Kai Bahayo versus Arman Petrosian. And that is who I have chosen for the most exciting fight of the night. Kai Bahayo, or, potentially the most exciting fight. I don't know. Kai Bahayo versus Arman Petrosian. And I can see a couple of my friends in the chat are worrying if I am ransom. Lou is saying, this video almost looks like you're being held for ransom. No, Lou, this is the place where I hold people for ransom. So I've got a couple motherfuckers locked away in the cupboard right there. But I still come on here to do the free content for you guys, even though I have other business to do, But don't worry. Please hit the like, just like my man Daz says. But don't worry. What I want in return is just some paper. That's all I want. You know what I mean? That's all I want, some money. But we ain't going to get that through kidnapping, I don't condone none of that behavior. We're going to get that through legally gambling. You know what I'm saying? There's been a lot of times in my life where I may have done some illegal stuff for money. We won't go into depth on that one, but we do it legally these days. You know what I mean? We do robberies. We still do robberies, but we rob the bookies. So that's how we're going to make money this weekend. So Kai Bahayo versus Arman Petrosian. What a fight. What a fight. It's a co-main event, and I'm not surprised. They're trying to pump up Kai Bahayo or they're trying to pump up Arman Petrosian. Both fighters are young in the game in terms of UFC, but it's funny when, the commentators will say Kai Bahayo is such a young prospect, or the guy's 29, or Arman Petrosian's fighting, and, people will be like, Arman Petrosian, young guy. Like, the guy's 31. It's a 29-year-old and a 31-year-old. They're not young fighters, right? They're in their prime. They're in a few years, they're going to be like past their prime, literally in a couple of years. More so on the Petrosian side, right? So they're not young fighters, but they are young in the UFC. So I think both of them have had one fight in the UFC. Petrosian obviously made his debut against Gregory Rodriguez. Both of these guys are Contender Series alumni, if you want to call it that. Kai Bahayo obviously made his debut against a much easier fight, in my opinion, Gadzi Amagadziev. I had a big bet on Kai Bahayo in that fight. I think I had 3.3 units at like plus 100, minus 110 maybe. Got him as an underdog, I think, which was insane. The guy looked like minus 900. Probably my favorite bet of the year. I mean, I've had a few. I just cashed James Gonzalez at plus 500 last weekend. So, you know, that's always going to be up there. They robbed me of my Malkoun decision at plus 800. That would have been one of my favorites because I just thought Malkoun decision plus 800, like insane. And then it played out how I thought. There's been a few, but honestly, Kai Bahayo, just because we got him as an underdog or minus 110 and he looked minus 900, you know, it just was a really, I just really like that bet. I also played him via decision, which cashed. And I also had another big bet on the fight goes to decision, which cashed for me and 70% of my members who bet the fight goes to decision as well. But on betmma.tips, it's showing as a loss because instead of clicking fight goes to decision, I clicked fight goes a distance, which is right below it. And I'm not going to have a rant about that and go into it, but, you know, 78% of the people cashed that ticket. So I feel like that should show as a win on betmma.tips, if not a push. At the very minimum, a push. So it is what it is. What I was saying was I had a big bet on Kai Bahayo and other big bets in that fight. And I called that fight to a T. But when you're talking about the Petrosian fight, he was fighting a much harder fighter. One of my favorite fighters in the UFC. Been my favorite fighter from his debut. I know now he's a lot of people's favorite fighters. But I was calling about this guy from his debut in the UFC. I bet on him as a plus 140 underdog against Dusko Todorovic. If that's Gregory Rodriguez I'm talking about. He's a very good fighter. So for Arman Petrosian to get a split decision win over him, which I thought he could have lost, but for him to get a win over Rodriguez, which was a very close fight, you know, it was a 50-50 fight. Shout out to him because he come through some heavy moments or, you know, heavy punishment in that fight. He took a heavy shot in like the first 10 seconds. And then he also weathered the storm on the ground. Gregory Rodriguez had his back in that fight and he didn't get tapped out. So he impressed me in that fight, man. Petrosian really impressed me in that fight. Kai Bahayo impressed me in his fight, but I did think he had that upside there, or I wasn't sure if Petrosian would be able to look minus 110 and definitely, probably not, be able to escape Gregory Rodriguez submission attempts, not once, but twice. I probably didn't think that was possible. So to see that happen, Petrosian impressed me more than Bahayo, even though Bahayo had a better performance. But we have to take into account who they fought, right? So both of these fighters impressed me. Look, I don't think they're champion material. The one thing that stands out to me about this fight, and I'm going to wrap this fight up now in terms of like, you know, my breakdown and who I think is going to win. So on the one hand, we got Kai Bahayo, right? Who, and I'll get back to the X factor on Kai Bahayo. One thing that impressed me about Kai Bahayo, one thing that I really think may be the difference in this fight is the X factor on Kai Bahayo. And I will get into that in a couple of minutes. But on the Kai Bahayo side, he's a karate point fighter type striker. I don't know if he has karate in his background, but that's how he looks. You know, he jumps in and out of range, back and forward, jab, 1-2. He loves the leap in 1-2. That's his favorite shot. He also likes the left hook, which he knocked out that dude on Contender Series, which I won a lot of money off him there. All the money I could put down on that anyway, which wasn't too much for me. But yeah, Jesse Murray, that was a great like check hook, I believe, or just a leading hook, some form of hook. And then he managed to finish him with ground and pound. He's got a very good check hook, lead hook, and the leap in 1-2. By his striking is karate based, you know. His volume isn't that high. You know, his volume isn't great. But he's a decent striker. And then in the grappling is where I believe he excels, although he doesn't show it enough in my opinion. But I do think he's a very good grappler. He lost via escape time. So he lost via decision. against Jailton Almeida, who just choked out part of Porker at heavyweight and is just running through his division and now heavyweight, apparently. He's choking everybody out. Fought Kai Bahayo. Couldn't finish him in a jiu-jitsu match, I should say. So that was very impressive that, he wasn't able to finish him. Shout out to Kai Bahayo. Shout out for him not getting submitted by Jailton Almeida, because most motherfuckers are getting submitted by Jailton Almeida. It is different in jiu-jitsu than MMA, of course. The strikes are not there. But anyway, it was a great look, in my opinion, for Kai Bahayo to go to a decision with Jailton Almeida. Other than that, Kai Bahayo hasn't really shown any holes in his game, man. I mean, he's looked like he's gassed in the Contender Series fight, Aaron Jeffrey. And so they brought him back for another Contender Series fight, like the week later or 2 weeks later. And he obviously got the first round finish, like minus 700 favorite in that spot or something. It was a layup fight for him. But yeah, he has gone 5 rounds before. I didn't tape it this go around, but I do remember taping his 5-round fight for his last fight against Gadzi Amagadziev. Let me have a look now. Yeah, so that was his one fight before the Contender Series fight against Wildemir Santos. He did go 5 rounds, but I will say that was a low-paced fight. So in his Contender Series fight, it was a high-paced fight, and in the 3rd round, he was gassing, and he was honestly, he was diving for legs because he was tired, So, the potential of him having not the best gas tank is there. Although I'm not going to fully hold it against him because we've only seen him gas once. And at the end of the day, he potentially won that 3rd round, even with, I think he lost that 3rd round, but it was a close 3rd round, even though he was gassed. And he managed to get a couple of takedowns there. And Aaron Jeffrey's a decent fighter. We just saw Aaron Jeffrey knock out Fabio Aguiar, was it? In Bellator. And, I mean, he's a good fighter. Aaron Jeffrey, honestly, he's a solid fighter. So, shout out to Kai Bahayo for winning that fight, because Jeffrey's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. So, yeah, that's the Kai Bahayo side. That's how he fights. The X factor on Kai Bahayo is something that we need to take into account. And what I mean by X factor is, it's kind of like what Davison Figueiredo has, where like he could be losing a fight and then just win it. Or these fighters who are able to just pull something out of the bag. These fighters who haven't shown their whole skill set yet. And it's hard to judge them because they haven't shown their whole skill set. Right? Kai Bahayo has that, in my opinion. He has that X factor. In my opinion, he has more tricks up his sleeve that we haven't seen. In my opinion, we could see something special from him in some of the fights to come. I really do think that. We could see like him knock someone down in the first minute and get a submission, like real quickly. It's something we haven't seen from him yet. I do think he has that X factor. It's hard to judge when a fighter has it or not. But I have been in this game for many years. And, once you've been in this game for a long, long time, your eye gets a little bit better and you can notice things more. And I just believe that Kai Bahayo does have this X factor I talk of. So how that pertains to the fight is that, and I'll get onto Petrosian in a minute and then I'll wrap up. How that pertains to the fight is that I don't like betting against fighters that I believe have this X factor. I don't really like betting against these fighters at all because they're hard to judge. They're hard to cap, like you're watching a fight on tape and you're like, I think the other guy's got value. Like he looks like he's going to look like win, or he's better at this aspect of MMA, but then he fights and then the dude that has the X factor gets a fucking guillotine out of nowhere, and then you're like, oh, I was winning that fight. I had value on my bet, but you didn't take into account that the other guy is a dynamic finisher, or the other guy had tricks up his sleeve that he hadn't shown yet. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't like betting against those fighters, right? But at the end of the day, there's always a number. And I'm going to tell you right now that my magic number for Petrosian at plus 200, it reached it. The market reached plus 200 for Arman Petrosian. So reluctantly, I'm betting on it. I'm betting on Arman Petrosian in this fight. I don't think he's going to win the fight. I actually do make Kai Bahayo a favorite in this fight. But I don't make him a minus 250, guys. I don't make him minus 250. I think he's going to win, but I don't make him minus 250. Petrosian may have fucking X factors too, my guys, right? And I'm not going to say an X factor. I don't want to overuse that term because it's very rare. But what I will say is that Petrosian has stuff we haven't seen before, or we've just seen it. And what that is when Petrosian was taken down by Gregory Rodriguez in his last fight, he got his back taken and he was able to get out of the submission attempt, which is very, very high level because Gregory Rodriguez is a very good jiu-jitsu fighter. He hasn't shown it that much in the UFC, but he has shown it, man. He's murked guys on the ground. And I know he hasn't submitted anyone in the UFC, but he was fucking up Junior Park from the back position brutally. I mean, the way he takes the back is beautiful. He puts Petrosian in a Sulov stretch instantly. Petrosian gets out of that. Honestly, I thought if the fight hits the ground, if Rodriguez gets his back, it's game over. For Petrosian to come through a back take from Gregory Rodriguez was extremely impressive to me, and it changed my opinion on him, right? Petrosian's a great kickboxer, but he's a bit one-dimensional. He'll throw similar kicks. The 1-2's there. He's got good volume, decent power, but he is a bit one-dimensional. He does give his back to get up, which could be very troublesome here because, look, on the one hand, he escaped Gregory Rodriguez's back take, which was amazing to see. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean he can never get submitted from back position. I think Kai Bahayo via submission is a very, very live outcome in this fight. Let me see what Kai Bahayo via submission is. Bahayo via submission plus 300, plus 285. I don't want to take it. You know why I don't want to take it? Because I haven't seen Kai push the takedown grappling game as much as I'd like, and I don't like his wrestling as much as I'd like to play a submission line here on somebody who just got out of the submission attempts of Gregory Rodriguez, right? I feel like Kai Bahayo and Gregory Rodriguez are probably pretty even on the ground. Jiu-jitsu-wise, I'm not going to say one is much better than the other. I do rate Kai highly, as you can tell, because I'm saying that he might be on the same level as G-Rod in the jiu-jitsu. So I can't get to the window on the Bahayo submission, although I do think that's a very viable outcome in this fight. Look, guys, this breaks down very simple for me. Kai Bahayo, in my opinion, needs to grapple to win this fight. I've seen Kai not pursue grappling heavily. I've seen him go for a takedown. He couldn't get it. He didn't bother shooting until the next round. I haven't seen him try and chain takedowns together. I'm not confident he is going to push a heavy grappling pace in this fight. I also believe that if he does and he doesn't submit or control Petrosian, which is slightly viable, I believe he will gas more than Petrosian. And so it leads me to believe that there's a good chance this fight, for majority of it, is on the feet. If this fight's on the feet, Bahayo's not going to cleanly win against Petrosian. Bahayo may knock him out because Petrosian's chin I don't think is great, and Bahayo does have power. But Petrosian also has a lot of power, and I believe he's a better kickboxer than Kai Bahayo. So it really is simple for me. Like, I think if Petrosian is able to keep the fight on the feet, it's going to be a very close fight. And I'm not getting a very close number. I'm getting a plus 200 number. Again, I hate betting against fighters who have this X factor, and I was very close to not betting this fight. Plus 200 was my number, my magic number that I had to get to for me to bet it. And so that's why I'm betting it. 10 minutes ago, the last time I checked the lines, 5 hours ago, or whatever it was, I wasn't betting Arman Petrosian. Now I'm betting Arman Petrosian. It's a numbers game. We're going to ride with Arman. It is what it is. I do think Kai wins. You know, I'm calling him a favorite, which means I'm picking Kai Bahayo to win. But I do think there's value on the number of Petrosian just from what we know. So I'm taking Armin Petrosian, but as a pure pick, I am picking on Kai Bahayo there. And the next fight we have is the most inaccurate betting line on the card. Now, honestly, guys, this is not a fucking good card for gambling. This is a shit card. I don't have many confident leans in this card at all. I don't think you should be betting lots of money on this card. I don't think you should be putting your money in a lot of spots on this card. I really don't. So when we're talking about the most inaccurate line, fuck, man, it's I don't know, you know. But I'm gonna go for this one, which is gonna get me loads of hate, I believe, because I just believe it to be true, guys. I'm gonna say Jared Vanderaa is the most inaccurate line on the card, and he's chalk. He's minus 200, and I think he should be minus 300. Dun dun dun. Yes. I believe Jared Vanderaa wins this fight 75% of the time. I mean, that's minus 300. Minus 280, minus 290. I would make him maybe, you know, if you don't want to push to 75%, just under 75. Honestly, 7 to 8 times out of 10. Because I just feel like Chase Sherman is so bad. I think he's got one round in him. I think he completely crumbles after one round. I think Jared Vanderaa has got a better gas tank. I think Jared Vanderaa is much tougher. I think Jared Vandeera's mindset is much stronger. I think he's much tougher mentally and physically. I think Jared Vanderaa can push a pace for 3 rounds. I don't think Chase Sherman can do that. I think Jared Vanderaa hits harder. Or if he doesn't hit harder, I believe that his strikes do more damage in this style dynamic, because I think Chase Sherman is weaker, right? And Jared Vanderaa is tougher, so I think that his shots are going to do more damage. I also think Jared Vanderaa has the grappling upside. I think Chase Sherman is terrible on the ground. I think if Jared Vanderaa gets on top, he's heavier. I think Jared Vanderaa is younger by 4 years. I think Jared Vanderaa is heavier. He weighs more. I think Jared has shown much better form as of late. I think any common opponent Jared Vanderaa has done much better against. This is a low-level fight, guys, and I don't like saying it, but I just think he is probably just better than Chase Sherman in most aspects of the fight. Like, Chase Sherman might look good in round 1, but Vanderaa could easily win round. I mean, Chase Sherman just got stopped in round 1 by Collier. Like Vanderaa can definitely win round 1, and I also feel like Chase Sherman. I just don't see how Chase Sherman can really be winning round 2 or 3. Really, I mean, if Vanderaa pushes grappling here, I think he'll win pretty comfortably. Chase Sherman has no belief in himself, man. Chase Sherman, as soon as he gets taken down, he just gives up. Or as soon as he gets hit hard a few times, he just gives up. Or, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, Chase Sherman's not good. Jared Vanderaa, the leg kicks are going to be there for both fighters. I think Chase Sherman, if he takes one too many leg kicks, he gives up. We saw it against Arlovsky. You know, he said, my leg hurts too much. I basically can't fight anymore. I mean, I'm fading Chase Sherman here. You know, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, Jared Vanderaa is bad, but Chase Sherman is also bad. I've put 3 units on Jared Vanderaa. Now, the reason I'm not going 5 and 6, 7 units, because honestly, style dynamic, in terms of one fighter against the other, just in terms of everything I just mentioned, you know, physicality, durability, cardio, kickboxing, grappling, everything, I feel like Jared Vanderaa is a 6-7 unit bet, right? But this is the reason I'm not going that heavy, because it's a low level fight, right? And what I say, and I said this, and I'll give this out for free as well, I said this on my weekly bet and breakdown and philosophy video, which I post every single week on my private website to my members. I always do usually a 45-minute video. This week it was like half an hour because we had less bets, but usually about a 45-minute video breaking down my philosophy behind sports betting, as opposed to just telling you who I think is going to win, right? And one of my philosophies is that this is really good to learn as well. It's when you are talking about low-level fighters, they are a lot more inconsistent with their game. When you want to talk about X factors, like we was talking earlier, there's negative X factors as well. And almost all the time, those negative X factors come from low-level fighters. So, for example, right, we got Jared Vanderaa versus Chase Sherman, low level. And then we got Rafael dos Anjos versus Rafael Fiziev, high level, right? And I'm going to compare the two, and I'm going to tell you why the low level incorporates negative X factors and something you should think about, and why the high level doesn't, right? With the low level fighters, Chase Sherman, Vanderaa, Chase Sherman could come into a fight and look completely different than he did on tape. He could come into the fight and just not throw any leg kicks, but he has thrown leg kicks in like every single fight prior. But now this fight, he just doesn't throw leg kicks for whatever reason. That's what you get when you're betting on a low level. Jared Vanderaa has shown a decent gas tank. He could come in now, tomorrow, tonight, and gas after round one. That's what you're getting. Negative X factors. That's what you're getting when you're betting on low level MMA. When you're talking about high-level MMA, Rafael Fiziev, Rafael dos Anjos, it's very, very unlikely. It's not going to happen where dos Anjos comes in and just doesn't shoot at all against a striker. It's not going to happen where dos Anjos comes in and just randomly has terrible cardio. It's just not going to happen. The fighters at the high level, and when I say not going to happen, I'm talking 95% of the time. There's always that 5% that a motherfucker in the comments wants to talk about, right? I'm talking about majority of the time. It's a lot more common in the low level that a fighter is just going to randomly do some stupid shit, or going to show up randomly completely different than they have on the whole tape you've watched of them. Whereas it's not going to happen on the high level, right? Dos Anjos ain't going to come in with one round of gas. It's just not going to happen. Dos Anjos is going to be consistent, right? This is the real word. When I talk about negative X factors, whatever, it's really consistency. The consistency for the low-level fighters is just not there. They're up and down. They're random. Whereas the consistency for the high-level fighters is constantly there. That's where they're high level, because they're consistent with their games. So, to wrap up my point, that's why I'm not going 6-7 unit on Jared Vanderaa, right? That's why I'm playing 3 units on his minus 200 money line. It's because I really do think it's a favorable match for him, but I also understand the dude is low level, and we can't be trusting these low-level fighters too heavily. But there's always value. There's always a number that you have to bet, whether they're low-level or high-level, right? So for me, Vanderaa has extremely favorable matchup here. And yeah, I'm just fading Chase Sherman. Whatever may be. But I honestly think that Vanderaa has the chance to look minus, 400 in this fight. 80%. Jared Vanderaa has the chance to look that. Whereas I think the best Chase Sherman can do is a minus 110 split decision. Like at the very best, Chase Sherman can do is probably look plus 130 on like a very close decision, So we're talking about minus 400 versus plus 130 potential lines here. So, that not much more to say about that one, guys. We'll see how it plays out tonight. And now the main event of the evening. This is a banger. Rafael dos Anjos versus Rafael Fiziev. They're going to duke it out to decide who is the best Rafael in the sport. And we're at the main event now. So I'm just going to do a tweet telling everybody that we're at the main event to come and join in. And then I'll be back. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here, but Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Been watching The Sopranos again lately. Such an amazing series. I watched that 7-8 years ago, like the whole season, and now I'm rewatching it again. It's so good. I know that's from The Godfather, by the way, that quote. Sopranos. Anybody seen Sopranos? Epic series. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Paulie just died. Is that James Caan? When did he die? Let me check this one. Oh, James Caan, the dude from the Godfather. Okay. Paulie died, yeah? Oh, well, rest in peace to both of them. That's sad. All right. Anyway, back to it, guys. Rafael. Who's the baddest Rafael in the sport? In my opinion, it's Rafael dos Anjos, but we'll see. Even if Fiziev wins tomorrow, man, it's still dos Anjos because the guy's fought everyone, like we've already said many times, or once at the start of this podcast, but many times not on this podcast. And I'm getting tired now, as you can see. It's 1:45, guys. But I'm still putting out this content because I said I would, so you know. But yeah, I think both guys are, very solid. Still, got a lot to do in the UFC. Obviously, in my opinion, dos Anjos is on his way out the sport. The changing of the guard is happening. Will it happen this weekend? I don't know. But I do think that, the changing of the guard is happening in the sport, especially at lightweight. But yeah, man, I mean, this is a great fight. Dos Anjos always brings it, and Fiziev always brings it. Fiziev fucking always brings it. I mean, shout out to Fiziev. That dude definitely always brings it. But Dos Anjos, I mean, the guy never, ever shows up half-heartedly. He always shows up in shape. And I'm just going to get straight to the point, guys. I took a shot on RDA, man. I'm picking Fiziev. Like, I'm making him a favorite, which means I'm basically picking him to win, right? But it's kind of similar to my Bahayo one. I mean, I can't get to plus 180. I'm sorry. I can't do it. There's too many unknowns on Fiziev to get to plus 180. I mean, his takedown defense is kind of amazing, but he's never, ever, ever, ever faced anybody near the takedown ability of RDA. It's not even close. So to just believe he's going to be able to keep up his 95% takedown rating is kind of silly. And just like Zach saying in the chat, if RDA can get him down, he could make it look easy. I mean, the wrestling is, not there. Fiziev has the wrestling defense to defend Rafael dos Anjos at a good level, in my opinion. But in terms of the jiu-jitsu, Fiziev, I mean, I don't know, because like people acting like Fiziev's got no jiu-jitsu. I mean, I also kind of don't think he does in terms of against dos Anjos, right? But look, we haven't seen it. We're not going to super assume because everyone thought as soon as Rodriguez got Petrosian down, it was game over. And we fucking saw what happened, all right? He got back to his feet and he won a decision, okay? So I'm not ready to just completely write off Fiziev if the fight gets to the ground. But I am ready to say that I do think dos Anjos would dominate on the ground, right? Like I do think that. But I'm not just going to call it a lock, right? Because this sport's a mad one. You know what I'm saying? This sport is crazy, man. And we have to, think of all possibilities. Look, I still think there's value on dos Anjos. I do. I think that if it gets to the ground, Fiziev could definitely be in trouble. I also think that if it goes 5 rounds and it's on the feet for 5 rounds, I think dos Anjos can make it close at times, during the 5 rounds. I also think dos Anjos has much better cardio. His experience is just, it's not even comparable. His experience in 5 rounds is not even comparable. I mean, the dude was a champion. I mean, what more do I need to say? Look, Fiziev could fuck him up. You know what I'm saying? And Fiziev could also win the decision, but also like Zach saying, Zach saying 3 good points in a row because the TRT one is a good point as well. But Zach saying that Fiziev looks gassed in every round 3. Now, he just got a round 3 finish. So, he got a round 3 finish. He got a round 3 finish, right? So, But there has been other fights where he has looked tired. The Bobby Green fight, he looked tired. But another caveat, he threw insane amount of strikes and spoke a lot, which takes energy if you're just fucking always speaking and high-paced, right? He threw a lot of strikes. So for him to be gassed in round 3 in that fight, it's not too bad. But then I think in the Alex White fight, he slowed down a bit, which is not great. And so, he has shown some tendencies to slow down. This is a 5-round nature. Pretty confident Dos Anjos is going to be the one pushing the pace in round 4 and 5 if it gets there. Like, it's pretty... I'm not going to say I'm confident in it. I don't really know, but it's not at all hard for me to see a world in where if it get like it's not at all hard for me to see if the fight gets into the 4th and 5th round, RDA wins them rounds. I mean, easy. RDA could look minus 300 in those rounds if it gets there. Like kind of like a Calvin Kattar, Giga Jakatsi thing. Giga, obviously that's a little bit different, but I'm just trying to think of off the top of my head some comparison. But Calvin Kattar, it's like he was a lock to win those last rounds if it got there, one of them type of things. So it could look like that as well. Like, and if he is, pretty consistently going to take 4 and 5, he only needs to take one more round to win the fight. But I also think Fiziev is kind of consistent to win round 1 and maybe 2, honestly. But then I kind of think RDA is kind of consistent to win 4 and 5. Like, obviously the fight could go any which way. I don't know. But like, if someone put a gun to my head, I'll probably say, if someone put a gun to my head and said the fight goes 5 rounds, who wins what rounds? I'm going to say Fiziev 1 and 2, RDA 4 and 5, and then the 3 is the swing round, right? If someone puts a gun to my head and tells me it goes 5, who's going to win the rounds, right? So I'll lay it out like that. So in that case, if I'm saying that the fight goes 5 rounds, if the fight goes 5 rounds, it's a one round swing on who's going to win it, and the judges favor the end of the round. So what I'm saying is RDA is probably going to win the end of the round if he's won 4 and 5 and lost 1 and 2, right? So I mean, there we go. I mean, it's easy bet for me at plus 180. I also think Fiziev can nuke him on the feet early, but I also think Dos Anjos can submit him on the ground early. So it's like even on a lot of different ways. But I do make Fiziev a slight favorite. It's funny here because like most of the fucking bets I'm giving, I'm making the other dude a slight favorite. But I have to be completely honest here. I do many breakdowns where I'm like, this guy I think is going to win, and he's an underdog. I'm just being honest, guys. I feel like Fiziev's a slight favorite because of the youth, because of the clear striking advantage, because of the speed, because of the power, because of the clear durability advantage, and because of the elite takedown defense versus a fighter who probably needs to get it to the ground, right? For those reasons, I'm making Fiziev a slight favorite, a 55% potentially. But again, RDA can look minus 400 if it gets into the 4th and 5th rounds, and he's weathered him. So I have to be honest, I'm backing RDA in that spot in terms of the line, right? Daniel Mofo, shout out to Daniel. He is saying RDA round 5 is plus 4,400 in some bookies. Oh God, I'm definitely going to take a little poke on that one just because why not? So that's it, guys. I wrapped up the podcast, 45 minutes, but I went into a lot of breakdowns, and I went into a lot of philosophy as well, which I always like doing. I like to educate not only this guy's going to win, this is how he's going to win. Next fight, this guy's going to win, this is how he's going to win. Next fight, like, I'm not taking a piss out of anyone. Of course, there's like 100 MMA podcasts. There's like 20 popular ones. I'm not talking about anyone. I am just talking about everybody has the exact same format. And so I don't like doing that. So that's why I do it here. And I mention that every podcast, right? Because if I get new listeners, I want them to know that if they're tuning into my shit, it's a little bit different, right? And love it or hate it. You might just want to hear my thoughts on a fight in 5 minutes and move on. You might not want to hear the philosophy. You might not want to hear the breakdowns. You might not want to hear the jokes or whatever I talk about, the Sopranos, right? You might not want to hear about that shit. Obviously, Sopranos aside. But for me, I just like talking about the X factors, philosophies. Like, honestly, in this podcast, we've covered like 10 different things, 5 different things, which you can take away and use in your betting in the future, not just on these specific fights, which is really important. Yeah. So that's it, guys. If you got any questions, hit me up. Oh God, who the fuck is that? Yeah, I don't know. Someone's popped up on my phone. Yeah, if you got any questions, please ask me them. I'll just wait for a few questions to come through and then. Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll just quickly do a skim through the questions. Is this a shower stream? Bro, you got to pay for the OnlyFans for the shower stream. I mean, this is not a full shower stream. The OnlyFans is like, But shout out to my shower. I just said shout out to my shower. But shout out to my shower because it's fucking sick. It's epic shower. Can you guys see that? Wait, where am I going? I'm going here. You can't really see, but it's such an epic shower. You can't see, but it comes from there and it's like a massage. It goes so strong on your back. But no, it's not a shower stream. Lewis saying the only hole in KO's game is the decision to get it. That's a huge hole. And you've got to question his IQ. The Sharpie tattoo. What do you think about under 4-5 on the main event? Yeah, probably solid. But like it's one of them ones where I could see it going all 5. I'm not betting it. I'll put it that way. It's decent. I like the plus money on it. I feel like it should probably be favored, if anything. But in terms of just how I think it's going to go. Like, when I say it should be favored, I thought the bookies would favor it. I don't know it's plus money, really. But, I mean, Fiziev is a finisher. And, like, I know he's got a couple of decisions. And he was going to a decision in his last one. But he still got a knockout. But he is a finisher. Like, he's definitely a finisher. And RDA, he's getting older now. He can definitely get cracked. And RDA is also a finisher if he fights a white belt, or a blue belt. And I do think Fiziev is a blue belt. Ronnie Lawrence getting slapped. Hot take. Shout out to Ronnie. That's a great fight, man. I like that fight a lot. I don't have any bets on that fight. Jeffrey is a lot better than he looked on Dana White's contender. Yeah, and the thing is, he was fighting. I think he might have fought twice on Dana White's contender. Did he fight twice? But either way, he fought Kai Bahayo. You know what I mean? Who's a good fighter. So like, yeah, he lost that fight, but he won round 3 against Kai. And again, I think Kai's the real deal. Like someone said in the chat, Kai's the real deal. Yeah, I do think he's the real deal. I don't think he's going to be a champion, but I do think he's the real deal. I do think he can touch the top 15 of his division. I honestly do. But like, it's just about the number, and I won't go into it again, but the reasons why I backed it. Aaron Jeffrey did fight on the Contender Series before, and he got choked out in round 1 against Brendan Allen. But Brendan can do that to motherfuckers. How many bodies hidden in that room? T Banks is saying, I like that you talk about X Factors a lot. I write about them a lot in subreddits, and people always call me stupid, but they usually help with betting. It's hard to articulate X Factors as a viable thing when you're capping betting, but it's there. It's just hard to articulate it, so people don't understand it. Bold statement. Kyle has better fight IQ than Jared Vandera, and that's true. I'll just go down to the bottom now. I'll skip some of these. If you've got a question that I didn't get to, just re-ask it in the bottom because I don't want to stay too long on these ones. Nick's saying, do you have any fear that Petrosian could have delusion of value? I mean, who knows though, right? Until we fight it. At the end of the day, all I can do is say I think this fight has value. I'm going to bet on it. Look, if it's a 15-minute kickboxing fight, he's not going to be illusion of value. He's going to be value. So there we go. What else we got? We got. Love the breakdowns as always. Appreciate that. MMA picks with Anton J. Haven't checked that. I guess you guys got a channel or something. I'll have to check that out. I don't watch too much MMA prediction at all channels in the community. Honestly, I don't. But yeah, I'm sure you guys probably got a channel going on there. Maybe I'll come across it one day. Yeah, well, rest in peace. What we got? Yeah, I would definitely have a look at this one, guys. Daniel's giving us a plus 4,400. That's insane. I'll see what it is on the my books I have access to. Juan Lopez saying, I don't like how people talking that this is an easy win for Fiziev. He takes a lot of strikes in this fight, slows down after the first 2 rounds. RDA has been in camp twice for Fiziev. Agreed. Zach D. Cheers, James. Enjoy Ubud. Hope the monkeys pop by your suite. They haven't actually popped by the suite, but they do come here. But yeah, I've seen a few monkeys. I'm going Monkey Forest tomorrow, so I love Ubud, man. Second time here. Beautiful place, man. So special. What we got? Ben Siegel saying, in it has been up and down because some of you feel like I've just spoke about the most exciting fight on the card. In my opinion, that is Kai Bahayo versus Arman Petrosian. I'm picking Bahayo, but I don't think he should be minus 250. And I am actually betting Arman Petrosian reluctantly. Hit plus 200. I have to bet it. My other picks was Jared Vandera as the most inaccurate betting line on the card. And then the main event, I'm picking, I don't know, man. I think it could be minus 110 a piece. I'm just going to say that there's value on RDA. Definitely great insight. Thank you. Do you like any other underdogs? I like Courtney Casey. Baby K sub. I don't know, man. Move on. Nurmagomedov sub round 3. Good luck. I just will say that Nurmagomedov, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the guy has a finish out of round 1. Both for the Saeeds parlay, maybe even inside the distance. Nah. Not for me, guys. Who's Saeed? What, is there 2 Saeeds on this card? Saeed Nurmagomedov. What, is there Saeed on another card or something? Oh, Saeed Yakub. Yeah, I mean, no. Don't bet any of them, in my opinion. Pass on both for me. Daz Files, Courtney Casey thoughts. Yeah, I think that she's live in this fight. I think if she pushes a grappling pace, she could look minus 300. She's an underdog, and it's extremely low level. It is women's MMA. It's low level women's MMA. It's low level women's MMA where someone cannot grapple off their back for shit, and someone does push the grappling in Courtney Casey. So I think this fight is, a complete shit show, but one girl is plus 150. So, I mean, do with that information what you will. And that's it, guys. I'm bouncing off now. We kept it under an hour. It's 1 minute past midnight here in Ubud. And yeah, hopefully everyone wins on their bets. I'll probably miss the first portion of the fight because it's midnight now and the first fight starts at 6 a.m. here. I don't feel like getting up at 6 a.m. I'll probably wake up at about 7:30 or something. And I'll catch up with the first couple of fights of the night. And yeah, maybe I'll do, you know what? I'm thinking of doing a live stream tomorrow, after the fights, to break down how the fights went. I don't know if I'm going to have time. Oh, probably won't have time, actually. Maybe I will. Maybe this evening, after the fights. I did kind of want to do some content. I did it on my Instagram last week because I've been away from the content game. I wanted to come back and put out some more content. So I might do a live stream after the fights, a few hours after the fight's finished, maybe 2 hours or something, hour and a half. I might come on here and do a live stream, talk about the fights, talk about anything that happened, hopefully talk about RDA winning, hopefully talking about me winning my bets, us winning our bets, Team Lucrative, for the 4th weekend in a row. We've won the last 3 weekends in a row. We're 41 units up this year. pretty decent for this year, seeing as we've had a lot of bad luck. So hopefully we can push on now, looking to get 100 units this year. That's it, guys. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everyone who is still here. Please hit the like button. Takes 30. No, it doesn't. Doesn't take 30 seconds. Takes 3 seconds. Shout out to everybody, and good luck on your bets. We're going to keep stacking these units, keep cashing these units, and see you all on the moon. Good luck.